When we watch stories of resilience and new beginnings, we reflect, awaken, and may take steps that help us become happier and more fulfilled. I hope you enjoy this story of renewal, feel inspired by it, and join us. I'm curious. Tell me where you're listening to, watching me from. She was already standing there when the thought hit her. The bathroom light hummed softly above her head. Steam from the shower blurred the edges of the mirror. Her hands rested on the sink as if asking for support. She barely recognized the woman staring back. This body had once been precise and obedient. It had responded instantly to discipline and command. Every muscle had known its purpose and timing. Now it felt slower, heavier, unfamiliar in silence. The change felt like betrayal rather than aging. She searched her reflection for something she remembered, a spark of certainty or pride or control, but the mirror offered only honesty, not comfort. Her shoulders were tense without knowing why. Her breath came shallow, as if bracing for impact. 53 was not supposed to feel like this. She had imagined wisdom, not grief, strength, not this quiet confusion. No one warned her about missing herself. No one explained how loss could live in skin. She turned sideways, then quickly turned back. Comparison happened faster than permission. The past version of her appeared without being invited. That woman moved fast and trusted her body. This woman stood still and waited for nothing. The silence in the room pressed closer. No crowd, no timer, no whistle waited for her. Just the sound of water dripping behind the walls. Just the weight of time settling into her bones. Just a question she refused to ask out loud. She stepped away from the mirror without resolution. The image followed her anyway. Something inside her cracked without making noise. The day had only begun, but she felt tired. And something told her this feeling would return. The applause used to arrive before the doubt. Noise had once protected her from uncertainty. Crowds filled the spaces where fear might live. Their cheers had shaped her sense of worth. Silence now exposed everything applause hid. She remembered the last competition clearly. Not the race, but the ending. The way people drifted away afterward. No ceremony marked the moment she was done. The world simply moved on without her. At first, rest felt deserved and earned. Her body demanded it after years of punishment. She told herself she had nothing left to prove. But rest stretched into weeks, then years. Stillness slowly erased who she thought she was. Without the uniform, she felt unanchored. Without a schedule, time lost meaning. Days blended together without urgency or direction. No one asked about her goals anymore. No one measured her performance but herself. She tried new routines that never lasted. Walking felt pointless without a finish line. Gyms felt like museums of her former life. Mirrors there were even crueler than at home. She stopped going without telling anyone. The applause had not followed her home. It had stayed where she left it. She realized too late how much she depended on it. Not for pride, but for permission to exist. Without it, she felt strangely invisible. That invisibility settled deep in her chest. It shaped how she moved through rooms, how softly she spoke when she spoke at all. The applause was gone, but the echo remained. And it left behind an ache she could not name. Pain arrived without warning or drama. A knee protested while climbing simple stairs. Her lower back stiffened after sitting too long. The sensations felt personal, almost intentional. As if her body resented being ignored. She grew cautious with movement. Every step carried calculation instead of trust. She avoided bending, lifting, reaching too far. Fear replaced instinct in small daily choices. The body once reliable now felt unpredictable. Frustration followed close behind the pain. She scolded herself for weakness she could not fix. Memories of endurance sharpened the disappointment. She compared herself mercilessly to who she was. That comparison never ended in kindness. Rest no longer felt restorative. It felt like surrender disguised as self-care. Stillness became her way of avoiding failure. If she did not try, she could not fall short. That logic kept her safe but deeply unhappy. She stopped trusting her own signals. Every sensation became something to suppress. She disconnected to avoid disappointment. The body turned into an object she managed, not a partner she listened to. Anger simmered beneath her calm exterior. It surfaced when buttons felt tighter than before. When movements required effort she once dismissed. She blamed time, genetics, fate, herself. Anything but the fear underneath it all. That fear whispered when she lay awake. It asked what would happen if this continued. If movement disappeared completely one day. If she lost even the memory of strength, she turned away from the thought, but it stayed. The house seemed larger than it used to. Rooms echoed when she walked through them. Furniture sat untouched like forgotten equipment. Even the air felt unmoved and stale. Stillness had filled every corner quietly. Mornings arrived without urgency or excitement. She moved slowly, stretching time unnecessarily. Coffee cooled before she remembered to drink it. There was nowhere she needed to be. No reason to move with intention. Photographs lined the hallway walls. Most showed her mid-motion and smiling, her body captured in moments of purpose. She avoided looking at them too long. They felt like messages from another life. The television filled silence without connection. Background noise replaced conversation. She let days pass without meaningful interaction. Isolation disguised itself as peace, but peace did not feel this heavy. Sometimes she stood at the window. She watched others jog past the house. Their movements stirred something uncomfortable. Not jealousy, but grief for herself. She closed the curtain to escape it. The house mirrored her internal state, safe, controlled, and emotionally stagnant. Nothing challenged her here. Nothing asked her to show up fully. And nothing helped her heal. That realization unsettled her more than pain. Comfort had become a quiet trap. She sensed something inside her fading. Not muscle, but willingness. And she did not know how to stop it. The invitation arrived without drama. A casual request from someone she barely knew. It required movement, presence, and commitment. Nothing competitive, nothing impressive. Just participation, simple and exposed. Her first instinct was refusal. Excuses formed quickly and convincingly. Her body was not ready, she told herself. Her schedule was unclear, her energy limited. Fear spoke fluently through reason. She read the message again later that night. Something about its simplicity lingered. No expectations, no performance implied. Just showing up as she was. That frightened her more than competition ever did. The thought of being seen felt unbearable. Not judged, just witnessed in limitation. She imagined moving slowly among others, her body announcing its changes openly. Shame tightened her chest instantly. Still, she did not delete the message. She let it sit unanswered for hours. The silence between her and the decision stretched. Avoidance felt familiar but unsatisfying. Something inside her resisted disappearing again. She stood up from the couch suddenly. Her body protested slightly but complied. That small cooperation surprised her. It reminded her that movement was still possible, even if it looked different now. She picked up her phone with hesitation. Her fingers hovered before responding. The decision felt heavier than it should. Accepting meant facing herself honestly. And she did not yet know if she was ready. If this story is touching you in any way, let us know in the comments. The morning she decided to go arrived too quickly. Her body woke before her mind was ready to agree. Muscles stiffened, not from effort, but from anticipation. Fear lived in her chest, calm and familiar. She dressed slowly, as if time could soften the decision. Every movement felt louder than it should have. Shoes against the floor echoed like a warning. Her reflection appeared again, less accusatory but still honest. She avoided eye contact this time. Looking too closely felt like asking questions she could not answer. The drive there passed in silence. No music, no distractions, no rehearsed confidence. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel unconsciously. She noticed how shallow her breathing had become. The body remembered stress, even when the mind denied it. When she arrived, she stayed seated for a moment. The building looked ordinary and uninhibited. Still, her pulse quickened as if facing a starting line. This was not competition, yet it felt more vulnerable. No performance meant nowhere to hide. She stepped out of the car slowly. Her joints complained quietly, then settled. That small cooperation surprised her again. The body was not refusing, only cautious. She realized she had been harsher than it ever was. Inside, others moved at their own pace. No one watched her arrival with judgment. No comparison was demanded or implied. She felt both relieved and oddly exposed. Without pressure, her fear had no clear enemy. The first step forward changed something subtle. Not strength, not confidence, but willingness. Her body moved, and the world did not collapse. That truth lingered longer than the discomfort. Something inside her loosened, just enough to breathe. She noticed it almost immediately. The instinct to measure herself against others returned. Younger bodies moved with careless ease. Older ones seemed comfortable in ways she was not. Comparison filled the room faster than sound. Her mind traveled backward without permission. She remembered how she once moved effortlessly. Speed, precision, endurance had been her language. Now every motion carried intention and restraint. The contrast stung more than she expected. She tried to stay present. She focused on breathing, on posture, on control. But the past whispered constantly beside her. It reminded her of records, finishes, recognition, none of which existed here or now. Shame crept in quietly. Not because she failed, but because she tried. Being seen in transition felt humiliating. Progress looked too small to respect. Her inner voice turned sharp and unforgiving. She almost left midway through. The thought appeared suddenly and convincingly. No one would notice her absence. Avoidance promised immediate relief. Staying required facing disappointment directly. Then she caught her reflection in a window. Not heroic, not broken, just human. A woman moving carefully, honestly, imperfectly. The image softened something inside her chest. She stayed, even while doubting herself. That choice mattered more than the movement itself. Comparison still hurt, but it no longer controlled her. She learned that pain could exist without retreat. This lesson did not feel victorious, but it felt necessary. The next time felt slightly less heavy, not easier, but less threatening. Her body recognized the environment now. Familiarity reduced the shock of beginning. That alone felt like progress worth noticing. She started listening instead of forcing. Pauses became intentional, not signs of failure. Her breathing guided her pace naturally. Movement slowed, but awareness increased. She realized she had never learned this before. In the past, speed defined success. Now, attention replaced urgency. She noticed textures beneath her feet, the subtle coordination required for balance, small sensations once drowned by intensity. There was relief in this rhythm. No stopwatch demanded proof of worth. No audience waited for excellence. Her body responded with cautious cooperation. Trust began forming quietly between them. Moments of frustration still appeared. Old habits resisted this gentler approach. She felt impatience rising unexpectedly. Slowness challenged her identity deeply, yet she stayed with it, breath by breath. Something shifted during one simple movement. She felt present rather than evaluated. Time seemed to soften around her. The room faded into the background briefly. That sensation surprised her more than pain ever did. She left that day feeling different, not accomplished, not proud, but calmer. Her body felt tired without feeling punished. That distinction mattered more than she admitted. A new possibility had entered her awareness. The soreness arrived the next morning. Not sharp, not alarming, just honest. Her body reminded her it had worked. This pain felt earned rather than threatening. She noticed that difference immediately. Instead of resentment, curiosity appeared. She stretched gently, listening closely. Some movements resisted, others welcomed attention. Her body communicated in clear sensations. She realized she had ignored this language for years. Energy returned in small, unexpected ways. She stood longer without discomfort. Her posture adjusted naturally during the day. These changes were subtle but undeniable. Hope grew quietly, careful not to overpromise. Doubt followed close behind hope. She wondered if this improvement would vanish. Past attempts had ended abruptly before. Trust felt risky after disappointment. She guarded her expectations carefully. Still, she returned again, not driven by motivation, but by consistency. Showing up became the goal itself. Each session layered familiarity onto fear. The process began shaping her identity again. She noticed her mood shifting outside the space. Her thoughts softened slightly toward herself. She spoke less harshly in private moments. Movements seemed to loosen emotional rigidity too. The connection surprised her deeply. That night, she slept without replaying regrets. Her body felt present instead of heavy. The ache was there, but it felt alive. For the first time in years, she smiled alone. Something inside her believed this might matter. The setback did not arrive dramatically. It came as a subtle return of doubt. One difficult day unraveled her confidence quickly. Her body felt resistant and uncooperative again. Old fears rushed back without warning. Pain felt louder that morning. Movement required more effort than usual. Her patience thinned almost immediately. She interpreted discomfort as failure. The past reclaimed its voice easily. Her mind questioned everything she started. Was this progress real or imagined? Was she forcing something unnatural? Had she misunderstood her limits entirely? The uncertainty weighed heavier than soreness. She considered not returning. Avoidance reappeared with familiar comfort. Rest sounded reasonable and justified. Stopping promised protection from disappointment. Quitting felt dangerously appealing. That evening, she sat alone with the thought. No distractions softened the discomfort. She recognized this pattern clearly now. Progress followed by retreat had defined her for years. Awareness made the choice harder, not easier. She admitted something she had avoided. This was not about her body alone. It was about trust, patience, and fear of hope. Continuing meant risking emotional exposure again. Stopping meant staying exactly where she was. She went to bed without deciding. The questions stayed with her in silence. Her body rested, but her mind remained awake. Something important hovered just out of reach. The next step would not be physical alone. She returned the next time without enthusiasm or hope. There was no surge of motivation guiding her steps forward. What brought her back was quieter and harder to name. A sense of responsibility to herself had taken root. It felt heavier than desire, but more reliable. Her body responded cautiously, as if testing her sincerity. Muscles resisted at first, then slowly softened. She noticed how easily she used to abandon herself. Leaving had always been simpler than staying. This time, she chose to remain present despite discomfort. She stopped waiting to feel ready. Readiness had become an excuse disguised as wisdom. Instead, she allowed herself to begin imperfectly. The pressure to feel good dissolved gradually. Showing up became enough for now. Movement unfolded slowly and unevenly. Some moments felt awkward and frustrating. Others surprised her with unexpected ease. She learned to accept inconsistency without judgment. That acceptance felt like unfamiliar territory. Her mind wandered less toward comparison. Attention shifted inward, toward sensation and breath. The body felt less like a project to fix. It became something to accompany instead. That shift softened her internal resistance. She noticed the quiet pride forming afterward. Not pride in performance, but in commitment. Staying felt like an act of courage. No one witnessed this choice but her. That made it more honest somehow. She left knowing something essential had changed. Not visibly, not dramatically, but deeply. She had stayed without applause or certainty. That choice echoed inside her chest. It asked her to keep going. Strength used to mean dominance over her body. Pushing past pain had once felt admirable. Endurance had been her proof of worth. Now those definitions felt narrow and incomplete. They no longer fit the life she was living. She began noticing a different kind of effort. The effort of listening rather than commanding. Of stopping before damage replaced discipline. Of respecting limits without resentment. This kind of strength required more honesty. There were days she wanted to push harder. Old instincts resurfaced without warning. But she practiced restraint deliberately. Slowing down felt counterintuitive and difficult, yet it protected something fragile inside her. She learned that strength could be quiet. It could look like consistency over intensity, like patience stretched across many small days, like choosing kindness when frustration felt justified. This realization unsettled and grounded her simultaneously. Her body responded differently to this approach. Tension released more easily over time. Pain softened instead of escalating. Trust began replacing vigilance slowly. That trust felt earned rather than assumed. She carried this understanding into daily life. Moments of fatigue no longer felt like failure. Rest became intentional rather than avoidant. Balance replaced the extremes she once valued. Her identity loosened its rigid edges. Strength no longer lived in the mirror. It lived in how she treated herself, in how she returned after difficult days, in her willingness to remain present. That strength felt sustainable for the first time. The relationship between them began to change. The body stopped feeling like an obstacle. It became a source of information instead. Signals replaced sabotage in her perception. She listened more carefully now. She noticed how her posture shifted naturally, how breathing guided movement unconsciously, how tension released when she allowed it. These changes felt subtle but deeply meaningful. They suggested cooperation rather than conflict. She stopped speaking about her body with hostility. Internal criticism softened into curiosity. Pain was acknowledged without panic. Limitations were respected without shame. This shift altered her emotional landscape profoundly. Moments of gratitude appeared unexpectedly, for joints that still carried her weight, for muscles that adapted slowly but surely, for a body that had endured years of demand. Recognition replaced resentment gradually. Movement became a conversation instead of a command. She adjusted when resistance appeared. She paused without guilt when fatigue surfaced. This responsiveness felt empowering rather than weak. Agency returned in a new form. Outside these moments, her confidence grew quietly. She occupied space with less apology. Her voice steadied in casual conversations. She trusted herself more intuitively. That trust radiated outward naturally. The body was no longer something to conquer. It had become something to protect, something that carried her story forward. This alliance felt deeply personal, and it changed how she saw her future. She realized one day that no one was watching. No one measured her progress or judged her pace. This absence felt liberating rather than lonely. Movement existed for its own sake now. That realization reshaped her motivation entirely. She no longer imagined an audience. No mental scoreboard tracked her worth. Her actions belonged only to her. This privacy felt sacred and grounding. It removed the need to impress. Freedom emerged quietly in this space. She moved when it felt right. She rested without explanation or guilt. The body responded with steadiness. Consistency replaced intensity naturally. She discovered joy in simple repetition. Familiar movements felt comforting rather than boring. Progress unfolded slowly and honestly. There was no rush toward an imaginary finish line. Presence became the reward itself. This carried into other parts of life. She made choices without external validation. Her confidence felt internal and stable. Approval lost its grip on her decisions. She trusted her own rhythm. She stopped longing for her past visibility. That version of her no longer defined success. This life felt quieter but more authentic. She belonged fully to herself now. That belonging felt like freedom. Moving without an audience revealed the truth. She had always been enough without recognition. Her worth was never dependent on being seen. This understanding settled deeply within her. It changed how she walked forward. She stood one morning feeling different, not transformed, but aligned. Her body felt present and familiar. Movement no longer carried emotional weight. It felt like part of living again. She no longer searched for her younger self. That woman had served her time. This version carried different wisdom. Strength had evolved into something sustainable. Acceptance replaced longing without regret. Rebeginning had taught her patience. It had asked her to release urgency, to trust slow progress without spectacle. This lesson extended beyond movement. It shaped how she approached life itself. She understood now that endings are misleading. They often disguise transitions instead. What feels like loss can be redirection. Her story had not diminished with age. It had deepened in meaning. She moved forward without needing certainty. Fear no longer dictated her choices. Courage looked quieter but more consistent. Her body supported her with honest feedback. Together, they continued without pressure. The mirror reflected someone she recognized, not the athlete she once was, but a woman grounded in herself, comfortable in movement and stillness alike. That recognition felt like home. Rebeginning was no longer intimidating. It felt natural and necessary. She carried this truth with calm confidence. It was never too late to start again, especially when the beginning starts within. If you made it to the end, thank you truly. If you're already subscribed, thank you for being here. If you're not yet, stay with us. And if this video touched you, share, leave a like, a comment. I read every single one.